reason that I did that piece on Planned Parenthood, I'm 55 years old, but when I was coming up, there wasn't, it's very strict about talking about sex to your children and stuff. And, my mom got sick and my dad didn't want to talk to me about sex. You know what I'm saying? So just to let you know that there's a lot of girls out there that's like that, that don't freaking know what's going on with their bodies or what's going on with sex. There's a lot of men out there that are becoming men and don't know about stuff. And that place provides that type of information. You would not know how much they saved my life. So much that I have them in my trust. That's how much I believe that service needs to be one of the most important things. We already got our rights taken away. We can't get our health care taken away also. So all the men that's in here, fight just as hard as the women, okay? You got sisters, you got aunts, This is a real war, you guys. This is a real war. And I hate to say it, and even if it's funny, but Handmaid's Tale literally started off with, they took our rights first. Yes. And then Congress took over that, literally, let's not sit here and watch some obvious shit happen. Let's fight! Yeah, let's go!
I've been thinking about the term people of color came out, POC. I loved it. I thought, oh my God, this is so incredible. It's going to unify us. It's going to bring us together. It's going to make us stronger. And then I started to see that people of color was sort of working, but it was excluding Latin people even more. I started to see that Latin people were not being included, that we were actually less included. So I started having beef with the New York Times because I was like, there's no Latin stories. Where are the Latin stories? Where are your Latin journalists? I mean, there were no names there. I mean, I was looking for those names, but you could only see it when they were showing the Yankees sports pages. And I'm not gonna, so they got upset with me because I was upset at them. And then they called me up and said, John, you're so wrong because we were about 10% more people of color. I said, that's fantastic. That's so awesome. That's my dream come true. How many of those people are Latin? None. Now they have maybe 1 or 2% journalists at the New York Times, but it's not enough. I don't want to be reading about Latin sofrito recipes written by Heidi. And the term people of color is cool, but not if it's excluding Latin people. I mean, we're half of the people of color. People of color are 40% of the U.S. population, and we're 50% of that POC. But we're less than 1% of the leads in movies and television and streaming. Less than 1% of the stories being told. Less than 1% of the executives. And I'm starting to think that. Do we have to get more aggressive? Do we have to get more assertive about ourselves? Do we have to start boycotting, picketing, calling, hunger strikes? What do we have to do to make this change? Because it's got to happen in my lifetime. It's got to happen before my kids get old and before I pass. It's got to change now. Should we make the Puerto Rican Day Parade longer? Go up every street, make the Puerto Rican Day Parade for a month? Do we cancel Hamilton?
The reason why I wanted to have this conversation is, over the past 2.5 years, I don't know if you felt this during COVID, a lot of us were at home, a lot of people were going through uncertainty. I had a lot of friends that lost their jobs. And there is this deep angst within a lot of us. I feel it with my friends, my generation. They're hitting an age where life is starting to choke them out. They're hurtling through time. People are getting married. People are trying to buy their first home. People are trying to have a little bit of a nest egg to have some sort of financial cushion to cover school, healthcare, aging parents, etc. And the way salaries are now, you have to 10x your money. And so what happened during this period of time is a lot of the financial, cable, hot take podcast people, advertently or inadvertently, were giving their takes, and people at home were listening to them and go, well, clearly, he's smart, he's a venture capitalist. Why don't I take an active position in my betterment and do what he does? The difference is, and what I was telling Mr. O'Leary, was, you're at a different tax bracket than them. You can take the losses and retail can't. And unless you give up your whole position, like I said, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. This is my net worth, this is what I'm being paid, this is how much I'm investing, this is how much of my personal money I'm investing. We don't know. And what that does to the millions of people that listen, it creates a lot of risk and damage. And I feel for those people because they get left holding the bag and they get left behind. So I hope people remember that the next time they watch any of these shows or these podcasts, they have to keep in mind, hey, we'll never know what their position really is. So maybe I need to take what they say with a grain of salt. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if it was actually, hey, put your money in an index fund, 85% index fund, 15% bond or whatever, what our dads told us, there wouldn't be any of these shows. There wouldn't be any of them. Squawk Box, CNBC, they wouldn't exist. So they have to have this ecosystem that continues pumping them out. And I just can't help but think it's one of two things. There's the white knight thing, that they think they have good picks, but they're so ahead of the game that even if they lose, they'll never lose the shirt on their back. So even when they're wrong, it won't really affect them. Or number two, they don't care, which is even scarier. And that's why I said, listen, man, leave that shit alone. Just shut up in Shark Tank. I think Shark Tank is great. I think it's very entertaining, and you can keep it there, and retail investors don't get hurt.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you worked for Barack Obama, with the Office of Public Engagement. How's that changed the way that you do political satire now?
Oh, interesting. That's actually pretty timely. So it changes it in a couple of ways. There's a show that was on TV. It might still be, I don't know. It was a cable news show, so a little different than this, obviously. But I want to say this took place in 2010. So I worked as you mentioned, I worked in the Office of Public Engagement at the White House. That's essentially the outreach office. And I was the president's point person on sort of three areas: young Americans, that was one bucket, then Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, second bucket, and third bucket was artists. And so there was something called the DREAM Act that would have provided a pathway to citizenship for a bunch of undocumented folks who came here as kids. Their parents or relatives brought them here. Many of them didn't even know they were undocumented. That bill ultimately failed by 5 Democratic votes, and the vote for that bill was the same day as the vote for the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That ended up getting repealed. So it was like one successful thing and one really heartbreaking thing if you're a progressive. And I remembered, in the lead up to that vote, I was at my desk in my office, and it was you see these glamorous pictures of the White House and obviously the Oval Office. My office was 8 of us smashed into a room. Desks were touching. And so we were just like this the whole day. And you work late most nights. It was 10:30. This pundit was on cable news talking about how she wasn't exactly sure if the Obama administration was serious about tackling the DREAM Act. And then the rest of it was just this cynical analysis of why, by her assessment, Obama probably wasn't serious about the DREAM Act. I'm watching this thing, it's playing in my office when I'm literally working on the DREAM Act. So I was like, you gotta be out of your mind, lady. There's a whole team of us that are working on it. So cut to 3 weeks later, I happened to be on the train up to New York, and she was on the train. So, and there are all these ethics rules when you work at the White House, don't do stoner movies at the same time. You have to wait for that. But also, you're not allowed to talk to journalists unless you get clearance from the communications team. But I sort of justified it by, I have a prior relationship with her because, we know each other from TV stuff. So I said, I just went up to her and I'm like, look, I saw your episode on the DREAM Act. I just want to let you know, we are seriously working on it. We're really hoping that it'll get passed. And she just looked at me and went, yeah, I don't know. you know? Like, no, but I'm telling you. Like, I'm telling you that. So anyway, cut to the afternoon of the vote. It failed by 5 Democratic votes. The very long-winded story gets to the point where I felt really upset that somebody who had a built-in audience that clearly cared enough about the DREAM Act for her to do a whole segment on it, instead of doing what she could have done, which is, hey, here are 5 Democratic senators who need a big push. And if you call their office, if you protest in front of their field offices, if you really engage with them, you might change their minds and we might actually get this thing passed. Instead of that, she chose to shit on the easy target, which was the White House. I obviously have a fair amount of bias here because that's where I worked. But the big takeaway for me was, I wish there was a way to still, in her case, inform, but in our case here, to really make people laugh and do the satire and do all the stuff in a way that doesn't make you feel like shit when you turn off the TV. So that's my big hope for this week, is I hope we can make people laugh, make the dumb jokes, engage everybody. But at the end of the day, I hope that you leave the audience and I hope you turn off the TV feeling like maybe you can be part of a solution in a way that you didn't know was possible.